I was just wondering, was the chamber open to any further negotiations on this, or was this pretty much the only offer and that was it, or what was?
And that was the case. We have followed up with them, and they are interested in maintaining ownership of the sign themselves, and they would like us to basically function as a customer of theirs in this scenario, and so that is their preference at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Given that, I mean, as much as it's nice to work with the chamber and whatnot, help them out, I don't think that expecting the city to pay 60% of the cost and then really have little say over its use and then only for up to 5 years, I think is a little too lopsided in favor of the chamber for my liking, but I don't think that I would be in favor of supporting their offer.
Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. The location in question for what we would consider an optimum place, are we going to do some more research? I heard a couple of options, but I just wondered if we decide that another place is warranted, on our own, would we do an in-depth study, because I think that signage is extremely important where we put it. And I don't know that putting it at the arena would be the most optimum. I mean, it could, but may not.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I think that some discussion would have to be had. I don't know if it would be, studied, but I think we'd obviously talk to some professionals who would, lend us their opinion. I think that would be part of the process.
Right, and the other part of my question is, we were looking to partner if possible, because it might make a financial difference. But if we are to go on our own, if that's the decision that we do, are we going to be in competition with them down the road, or are we going to have exclusive use for our own purposes? Are we going to be able to fill it? Was that the intention?
I think, content is an issue here. Obviously, we don't want to compete with them. That was part of the reason, I think, that they wanted to maintain ownership. They really wanted to make sure that they secured their revenue stream. And, if the city was eating up a good portion of, their ad spots, it could make their business plan not really functional. So, from my sense, we're not going to be in competition. We would probably reserve spots for, not-for-profit use and for ourselves, and if anything, that would maintain, a secure stream of paying clients for the chamber.
If I might, my third question was in respect to the chamber primarily, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but their primary business opportunities are going to come through businesses, and our primary focus is residential or residents, I guess, although they both intermix quite a bit. I think that there is a difference of what could be going on those signs, right?
Absolutely, and I think that's where I was going with that, Councillor Foster, is that I think we see two very different uses, and by perhaps separating this out, it would allow them to actually proceed, on a revenue generation basis that, worked better for them.
Thank you, and that, as Councillor Creasy has indicated, I was trying to wrap my head around the fact that, it would be nice to partner if it makes sense, but if it doesn't make sense, let's make sure right at the beginning that we're not hindering their process or ours.
And again, the focus shouldn't solely be on the model. The location for us was always a bit of an issue, and we really do feel that we're not speaking to our clientele if it's out at that location.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Rippel.
I'd like to move that Council decline the Lacombe District Chamber of Commerce digital sign proposal and direct administration to resume their investigation to identify a more suitable location for a new community sign.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Rippel.
Have we looked at using a local company to supply and install the signage as well?
That would be part of the process, I believe, but we have not yet at this point.
Councillor Creasy.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. So I was just curious if Councillor Rimpel intended that motion to include the retrofit as part of the new signage, or was this a totally new area, new sign?
So the recommendation that, I'm given is, that we just say no to the Chamber of Commerce, but we, continue to investigate locations, so either if we look at still retrofitting or totally new location or whatever.
Councillor Conick?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I would just suggest that we don't need a study. We can probably find a good location on our own. Thank you.
And I do believe that, you know, if we bring professionals in, they'll be able to help us out and assist with that.
Thank you. Councillor Bosman?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I just want to make sure that when we make this motion that we're absolutely clear. Do we need to say anything to the effect of in the proposal in its present form? Because what if they come across with something completely different that seems quite palatable? Or proposal to date or whatever, you know what I mean? So we're just not blanket saying we're not going to work with you, period.
Sadie McCoy?
Thank you, Mayor Christie, to Councillor Bosma. Certainly, if we are looking at a new location and a new sign, the budget approved by council may prove to be inadequate. So council does need to bear that in mind. We base that budget on the retrofit of the existing sign, or alternatively working with the Chamber of Commerce jointly on the ownership of a new sign. So I do want council to know the likelihood of administration coming back with a new sign proposal for that budget amount is remote, if not impossible.
Well, at least we know.
Yeah, exactly. And I tend to agree. I think that when we first talked about this during budget, the $30,000 was for a new sign because we weren't happy with the location at the fire hall, if I remember the discussion properly, because you can only see it going one way. So it was for a new sign, and then when the chamber came and did a presentation saying that they were looking to do a new sign, I think what we talked about in partnering with them was on a capital basis, on us putting money in and having a little bit of ownership in the sign itself, not them controlling it and us just advertising with it. So I agree with the motion to not continue forward on that aspect with the chamber, but I don't agree with looking at retrofitting the existing sign at the fire hall. I think that we have to look at a new sign, and if it doesn't happen this year, maybe it gets into next year, and carrying those funds forward is what I would like to see, but motion is on the floor. If the mover would accept that as a friendly amendment, I would.
Actually, I was just reading, oh, sorry, thank you, Mayor Christie. It actually says in here to resume their investigation to identify a more suitable location for a new community sign. So that does specify that it will be a different location other than when I actually read this. I'm still on holiday mode.
Yeah. Good, I just wanted to make sure we were aware of the intent of the motion.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? The motion is on the floor. All those in favor? So carried. Thank you, Manager Lapointe.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Alright, let's back to bylaws. Land use planning and development bylaw 300.73 rezoning R2 to R4. Planner Kirchner? Oh yeah, sorry. We gotta go to the 326.3 nuisance bylaw amendment. Director Minchin, you're up.
So before council tonight is bylaw amendment 326.3, which are amendments to the nuisance bylaw. There have not been any further changes to the proposed bylaw being recommended tonight. Certainly you haven't heard anything further from council as well. Again, this bylaw really is a housekeeping amendment to deal with definitions of enforcement officers, as well as updating our penalty schedules. So I threw it out there for any other comments or concerns from council.
Thank you. And you're looking for second and third reading this evening?
That's correct.
Thank you. Discussion, questions? Councillor Connick, then Councillor Bosma.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I apologize, I should have looked at the original bylaw before I asked this question, but in the original bylaw, does it state anywhere that the person making complaint against the cat has to prove it? I can't remember. So I know I've had this issue before, and the bylaw will right away say, well, because I mean, the issue with this is you phone bylaw, and the bylaw comes, the cat is long gone from defecating on your property, so how do you prove it? But does it mention in the bylaw that they should take a picture or something to that effect? I can't.
No, the bylaws wouldn't get into that evidentiary set of rules. In order for any type of complaint, throughout any of the bylaws, there's two ways of that happening. One is if it's through a complaint from a written complaint or a formal complaint by a resident, or is if, and it's part two, an enforcement officer or a peace officer actually witnesses it themselves, then they become a complaint. So, any type of evidence that bolsters a complaint, certainly from an individual point of view, that's encouraged. Yes, the cat part of the bylaw is a contentious and difficult thing to enforce. We do use cat traps in many cases when we have problem cats. And that can then lead to further enforcement actions being launched as well.
So you're saying you can't put something into the bylaw that specifies that, or?
No, the evidentiary rules are outlined in provincial, under the provincial rules for court, as well as the Provincial Summaries Conviction Act as well. So those are already outlined in provincial law.
CEO McCory, did you want to add to that?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I'll just add that Director mentioned cat traps. They cannot be used in the winter time. I just want council to be aware of that.
Councillor Bosma, then Councillor Creasy.
Thank you very much. If we're going to review this as a, make sure that all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, I think we need to make a couple of little corrections. If we can go to general definitions in the bylaw. The very first one, A, the last part of the definition, appointed under bylaw 69 of the or delegate. Whatever that's supposed to mean. And I would assume that delegate actually means or designate. And then if you go into D, just to, I don't know if this is acceptable or not, but the second line, Chief Administrative Officer of the city or his designate, can we just eliminate the word his? If that's acceptable. And otherwise, I will make a motion for second reading on bylaw. What's the number? 326.3.
Thank you. Councillor Creasy.
Thank you. Along that same vein, or thanks, Mayor Christie, along that same vein, there also in the ticket itself, I don't know if that was just a typo, but it references the county rather than the city. Whether or not that was just an old PDF or whatever, I don't know, but on the note underneath it says the county has something or other. Maybe that went up. And with respect to the bylaw itself, I realize that these cat issues have come about for a reason. I'm just really wonder if we need to be specifying or having all the differences and specifying the problem with cat damaging property, cat defecating, running at large, on and on it goes for the cat. I mean, basically, if this is intended to control cats, let's have one fine and make it a cat at large. Obviously, if it's damaging your property or defecating your property, it was in fact at large. I'm not really sure I understand the reason for having so many different ones, and I think perhaps some of them even had different fines attached with them. Or maybe there's just more than 3 cats, but I guess I'm just curious why so many different charges that are more or less the same thing.
Director mentioned.
With regards to that, there
course, you know, the primary ticket that would be issued would be cat running at large. However, we may end up, if it is damaging, we would then issue a second ticket as well for that specific offense. So there could be instances where someone could run 2 or 3 tickets on resulting from one cat. So, and we try to be with these types of bylaws with the judicial part, we try to be as specific as we can because they're very particular in terms of how this stuff is actually enforced, especially the nuisance bylaw. You notice that they actually look for us to look at alternative measures before we even get to a ticket stage. So you see rather lengthy process here in terms of how we get to these types of things. Especially when it gets to second and third offense, they want to see that we've been following a process to minimize those nuisances in the first place.
Thank you for that. That makes much better sense now, because at first reading I thought it seemed a little overkill, but if in fact first could be eligible for more than one, I guess that's reason enough. Thank you.
All right, I do believe second reading is on the floor. Is there any further questions or grammar amendments? All those in favor? So carried, thank you. Councillor Connick.
I would so move that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 326.3.
Thank you very much. Councillor Creasy.
Thanks, Mayor. Could you just to be sure that was as amended, so there was no misunderstanding there?
Absolutely. So noted. All those in favor? Thank you very, very much. Bylaw 381, business license. Director Minchin.
So we've made couple of changes. These are enforcement things that were missed, that are in the current bylaw that needed to be added. And then we've provided some alternatives in terms of actual fee levies, based on some of the concerns we heard at last meeting. Just want to identify the 2 proposed changes that we've introduced. Under section 5, businesses commencing operations basically halfway through the year get a prorated business license. That's already existing, wasn't included in this current draft. And then again, the second part just deals with multiple businesses on the same location. Depending on the nature of the businesses, typically we'll issue 1 license. If it's 2 distinctly separate types of businesses, then we require 2 separate licenses. That wasn't clear in the original draft of the bylaw. And again, that's consistent with our existing practices. In terms of the revenues, we did look at this a little further. We had created an industrial levy, but when we went back and actually looked at some of the individual businesses, we have lots of overlap in our C3, C4, and I1. And simply based on location, you were going to see businesses of a similar nature paying 2 different types of license fees. So we're proposing, and from a budget point of view, this will be fairly revenue neutral. We're essentially proposing 1 business license for all businesses that operate within the city as residential businesses. The general is a catch-all fee. We don't typically issue a whole lot of them, but that would be a license that we would have in the unlikelihood it didn't fit into any of these zones. There's always 1 exception to the rule. We haven't had to issue this lately, but we've left it in the bylaw just in case there are something that is missed. And then the non-residential, of course, hasn't changed.
Councillor Creasy.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. Just some clarification on the high-low for 2012. You got, I don't know, pick any one of them. Public commercial, $1,098 -61. I was a little confused as to what the 61 row was.
So we have some businesses who pay as high, so in the industrial, for instance, that pay as high as $1,400, and others that pay as low as 61. We didn't have licenses based on areas or land use. It was based on the nature of the business, and so we had to think well over 40 different business classifications that really don't mean a whole lot anymore. So it was quite a wide range. So we will have people who will pay less with the new fee, but we'll also have some that will pay, I think Councillor Connick indicated that the proposal will have a negative effect on his particular business enterprise, but we were able to keep the rates relatively low by spreading this across all the businesses. So even though that impact, there might be some impact, we're hoping to minimize that on everybody.
Thank you. Councillor Bosma, then Councillor Connick.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I would like to know how these rates were calculated out and why the non-resident rate is so much higher than it has been at present.
So the odd numbers are in place. I think we started out with $125 or $130 based on similar business licenses charged in other communities. There is a 15% EDO charge, which isn't currently in your bylaw, and that wasn't consistently applied throughout the fees either. So that's where some of those rates are. We certainly have raised the non-residential rate. Shortfall on the residential rate. That price discrimination is consistent throughout other municipalities. These certainly aren't the highest rates that are out there. Or the gap, near is the gap, the highest I've seen. But those are fairly similar to, we did use Leduc, which just recently updated their business license bylaws as the template for setting the fees. But yes, we do. It is done on purpose to charge non-residential. From an enforcement point of view, those are the businesses we spend the most time tracking, trying to ensure compliance with. And it's also recognizing that our residential or in-town businesses are already in many cases paying property taxes or other fees. So this is recognized as trying to bring some level of playing field in terms of competitiveness. And yes, the flip side of that argument is that the non-resident businesses may be paying taxes in other communities. But this is certainly trying to reward or trying to recognize that those businesses that have decided to locate here. And we have, the other thing we tried to recognize too is we did make sure that commercial and the home occupation businesses are paying the same fee. We did really want to encourage more home occupations. I know that's from an economic development perspective. It's always been a desire to have home ocs graduate or grow to such that they create storefront business licenses. So we wanted to make sure that there wasn't a hurdle for that to occur.
Thank you. Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. So to clarify then, with the amendments, a person can operate two distinct businesses from the same location, or are you saying it has to be similar, or just you can have two and you don't need an additional license? This is more than two, right?
Yeah, it would be more than 10. So you'd be able to operate two within one.
Even if they're entirely different.
Yeah, some choose to get two separate licenses for other regulatory reasons, because they operate under different names. But it recognizes that some businesses may have this operate under the same name but do two different types of businesses. So rather than getting getting involved in the day-to-day in terms of the nuances of each individual, this provision. This was originally in the bylaw. It has been in the bylaw since 1994.
Thank you.
Councillor Foster.
So I'd like to recommend that council accept and approve the additions of clauses 5 brackets 10 and 5 brackets 11 to bylaw 381. That council accepts and approves the change of the industrial license fee from $353 to $147 in Schedule A of bylaw 381, and that council gives second reading to bylaw 381 as amended.
Director Mitchell.
Just from a procedural point of view, the amendments probably should be dealt with first before the
First?
reading.
Yeah. separately from, so you move the amendments, the acceptance of the amendments. Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the amendments? Councillor Bosman?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I'm just trying to understand clause number 11 there. To me it says that if you, whatever business you're operating out of a location, you shall get a license. It just seems redundant to put it this way. You know, you technically could operate more businesses than 2 from one location, assuming that you get a license for each business. Well then, you know, it can be simply said, for every business that you operate out of your location, you shall have a license. Whether it's 1, 2, 7, 12, doesn't matter. This statement seems redundant.
Director Mitchell?
Yeah, I think I think what's being proposed, or and I don't have the history behind this. I suspect what's happened here is recognized that business may enter into a different trade. From an incubator business point of view, as a startup, this basically says you can operate that under one license, but if you go into a 3rd or 4th, then you get separate licenses for each of those. And it may be that someone operates, especially on a contractor side, for instance, gets into one building or trade and then decides to add a different. So rather than splitting hairs on those types of things, is to because the definition of business in here, and this comes from, unfortunately, read in Canada, it's a business or a trade or a calling, and those can be fairly broad. It's not just 2 distinct business activities. That covers a variety of different activities, shall we say, as opposed to just we think of businesses where it's thinking about legal entities. We get into this calling type of stuff that's looking at the actual activities themselves.
Okay, no, I can understand that, but then maybe we need to add in there occupations from any one premises or structure under one license without obtaining licenses for each and every business. You know what I'm saying? It's just so that it's clear, because it just, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. Well, we just need, you can operate 2 businesses under one license. That's what they're saying. If you go more than 2 under one license, then you shall have a business for each and every, a license for each and every one. The statement's not clear, at least not in my mind.
The motion is on the floor. Ian, being the mover?
I'm sorry, I'm understanding it. Does anybody else have an issue with this statement? I'm sorry, Peter, but I think it's straightforward to me, but if
Like I say, it makes sense to me. Wayne had his restaurant, he had the movie depot, they're in the same building. He didn't need to get a separate license for each. So I think if you've already got a 3rd, dog kennel in there as well, of course that would make sense. But anyways, they said that you have to get another license for that, but you know what I'm saying?
Cat house?
Yeah. So I think it makes sense, as long as if you go to 3, then you've got to get another license for that 3rd.
Councillor Christie?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I think I appreciate where Councillor Bosman's coming from there. As far as I think we know what it means, but it's not worded very well. That's correct. I mean, I appreciate the intent of it. One that I was concerned with was the first one, 10. Can I assume that the only time that this would come into play, as far as a portion of the license fee, would be for new business startup throughout the year, which we'd like for it to be lots of them, but I don't think in reality it's too many. I'm just curious, why do we just wouldn't prorate it monthly? If somebody chooses to open up a business December 1st, why should we be paying us a 6-month? And that's not fair. The 50% fee. Why not just pay the monthly group and come in? I mean, we're not talking a colossal amount. I don't think here. I just found that kind of odd. Yeah, mostly the 50% rule recognizes that there are a number of new businesses that start up throughout the year. Not huge, we don't have a huge number out there. You could go to a prorated monthly.
in practice, if someone comes in middle of December, I can tell you we typically won't even bother charging a license for those 14 days from a practice point of view. Now that the fees are down to 140 or whatever, to split it down, really, I think it's more administrative more than anything. But yeah, if council's interested in doing a prorated, we can certainly, that's not insurmountable, and it's a minimal revenue impact, because we probably issue maybe 20 or 30 businesses and their licenses a year.
Councillor Rempel?
That was going to be my point as well, as going to a monthly fee, but I think like you did say, Michael, for someone to do the paperwork for 1 month is going to cost more than what we're probably charging someone if they do prorated monthly. And so I look at that and go, I think that for the amount that it's going to be, to change it every month is probably more work than it needs to be. As far as 11 goes, I just want to put in my 2 cents. For me, I totally understand this, and maybe it's because when I did combine my businesses, I went through and read this and asked a few questions. And when I read this, to me it says, you can have 2 under 1 license. If you have more than 2, you have to pay for another one. So I'm okay with both those. Thank you.
Councillor Creasy?
Thank you. Mayor Christie, I'm just wondering if, rather than having this in the negative, no person may operate, if we put any person may operate up to 2 businesses, callings or trades from any one premises or structure, period, and then next sentence, a business license is required for each additional business. Basically says the same thing, but I don't think there's any room for.
Councillor Foster?
Certainly, can make that amendment.
All right. This is the motion for the amendments, the amended amendments now, is on the floor. All those in favor? So carried. Thank you. Now, we're looking for second and third reading. Councillor Foster?
So I would so move that we give, oops, I'm trying to find it again, give second reading to bylaw 381 as amended.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? All those in favor? So carried. Thank you. Councillor Connick?
I was moved on that council gives third and final reading to bylaw 381 as amended.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. We will go down to unfinished business. Police, automated traffic enforcement technology. CAO Macquarie.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. This item has been before, this is the 4th occasion in which this item has been before council. And I just want to go through a chronological order in terms of how this has appeared before council in the past. It began on July 9th, 2012, where council made a motion directing the administration to implement an automated photo radar program, and the administration negotiate the terms of contract. Subsequent to that, on January 14th, a notice of motion was brought forward by Councillor Connick to reconsider that motion of July 9th. That notice of motion was then brought forward to the next regular meeting of council on January 28th. And at that time, because council's procedural bylaw indicates that to reconsider or rescind a motion, it must be done by a notice of motion, and it must be moved by an individual on the prevailing side and also supported by 5 members of council should it pass. At the January 28th council meeting, there were 2 members of council absent. Therefore, the notice of motion at that time was tabled without further discussion. It is now back before council this evening for consideration and discussion. And just a very brief history in terms of how this was brought forward. Of course, there was an initial presentation from the Global Traffic Group That occurred in April 2012. Subsequent to that, the item went before the Police Commission, the Lacombe Police Commission. The Commission had asked that the administration gather information from other comparable communities, which was done. There was an analysis of program costs, impact on traffic safety, and various types of service delivery. At that time, it was discussed that the intent was to use automated traffic enforcement in conjunction with other enforcement tools. And during that period, we had a pilot project introduced in terms of hiring a CPO, community peace officer, to undertake traffic enforcement. That position is now a permanent position, and the intent was or is to supplement that with automated traffic enforcement, because that position, of course, is not working 24/7 and has limited hours of work. Therefore, the original recommendation for council that was moved was that the program, automated traffic enforcement program, be implemented, and the administration proceed with terms to negotiate terms of contract. I will tell you that an RFP did go out. There were responses received to that RFP. There have been no contracts signed, and this, of course, discussion this evening needs to occur before any contract may be awarded. It was confirmed that, I know there was discussion around complaints and the management of complaints. It has been confirmed that any complaints would be fielded by and forwarded to a contractor. It would not be fielded by administration or the Lacombe Police Service. I leave that with council for discussion.
Councillor Connick, did you want to speak to this, or just as we go?
Just as we go, do I have to reintroduce the motion, or is it just carried over? How does that work?
To Councillor Connick, you do not have to reintroduce the motion. It has been brought forward.
Thank you. Councillor Foster?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Councillor Kite and I both made our thoughts well known last meeting. Just for clarification, I was the one that made the motion because if we didn't have 5 councillors vote in favor of repealing this, then this would not have changed. And at that time, we could have made the motion, but I thought it fair to make it, to have everyone here. Is that correct? Am I right in that 5 councillors period had to, it didn't matter how many, as long as 5 voted in favor?
You're correct. There had to be 5 in support of reconsidering the motion, Councillor Foster.
So just for the record, it would have been defeated at that point in time.
With procedure, should we not have that vote even before we discuss? Because if there's not 5 in favor of bringing it back to go over it again, then there's no use in going any further. Am I thinking correctly? No.
Mayor Christie, in accordance with parliamentary procedure, the motion should be on the floor for discussion, yes.
Yes. So that motion, and I'm sure, Ruben, you probably want to make that motion to bring it back, and then it has to be voted on and passed by no less than 5 councillors. Then it comes back to the floor to be discussed for reconsideration at that time. Is that correct? Does that make sense?
That is correct.
Okay, because I thought it was the motion to rescind a motion within a year's time had to have 5 members of the council approving that.
That is correct, Councillor Connick.
Right, so that's the motion to rescind the June, my motion was to rescind the June 25th decision.
To reconsider or rescind. Okay.
Was to rescind. So
Okay.
if we vote on that, then it's done, not to bring it back again.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
If I may, Mayor Christie, for council's clarification, yes, if the motion is voted on and there are not 5 councillors in support of the motion to reconsider or rescind, The motion is defeated and it does not come back,
And it stays as made on June 25th, 2012,
unchanged.
unchanged. All right. Councillor Connick, then Councillor Boswell.
I do have another comment, but just for, so can we have the motion read?
For clarification for our legislative coordinator, it's the notice of motion that's being requested to be read.
Isn't it the actual motion? I made an actual, I didn't make it, I made a notice of motion prior, then we had the meeting, then I made the motion, and that motion was tabled.
You're correct.
The motion from regular council meeting of January 28th read, moved by Councillor Connick that council reconsiders motion 12-217 and not proceeds with the automated traffic enforcement technology photo radar in Lacombe.
Because the motion we should be discussing is to rescind or reconsider motion 12-217.
Yeah, so what's up?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, if the motion is made to rescind that particular motion from June 25th, that in effect eliminates the photo radar from coming to our community at least for another year.
Until it comes back before council.
Right.
Yep.
To Councillor Bosma, if the motion is supported by 5,
Right, yeah, no, I agree. It has to pass, yeah.
yes,
Good. Okay.
then that is correct.
Okay.
Are we done with our,
Well, I think
legalities here?
I think I would like the motion on the floor. Until discussion, I know, but I would like the motion on the floor, and then we can discuss.
I can certainly read it again. So then I would so move that council, well, to me it should be rescind, that council rescind motion 12-217. What is it? Is that the June 25th? Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Rescind motion 12-27 and not proceed with the automated traffic enforcement technology
Perfect.
in Lacombe.
Thank you. Discussion. Councillor Boswell.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I've had a number of people approach me in the last couple of weeks regarding this particular item, and I would just like to share with council their comments. 3/4 of the people that I talked to said that they would not like to see photo radar in Lacombe for a number of reasons. And those reasons are as follows. One being that it does only it only enforces speed laws, and it doesn't do anything else beyond that. Another couple of people that talked to me about it said that they were not very happy with the fact that it would be a private for-profit business that would be running this operation, and then questioned whether or not there was motives on the part of the contractor to ensure profitability. Of course, I'm sure that would be under some sort of legislation, but they didn't feel comfortable with that since our police department would not be running it themselves. They said there's no way that we should have that particular photo radar system being operated by a contractor. So I would agree with these people as well in that I would like to also rescind this particular motion.
Councillor Connick.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I won't belabor this too much more. I've said a lot on this already. For me, one of the beauties of democracy is that sometimes you get a chance to revisit a certain issue. And I received a lot of pushback once the ads started coming in the paper saying photo radar was coming. And then since they're on the paper, some more comments from people saying, why are we doing two different services. And so I would be remiss in not bringing it back, so as an elected representative, people came to me, they weren't happy, and that's one of the main reasons I brought it back. That coupled with my own, as I mentioned before, confusion as to, I thought it was gonna be either or, and I guess that was just me, it would seem. But at any rate, it's back, and yeah, thank you.
Councillor Creasy, then Councillor Rempel.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I guess I would like for us to keep in mind that while this may kill photo radar if in fact this goes through for the time being, that doesn't mean that it can't be revisited at a later date. And I would just like to have us consider that, given that we've got what appears to be a fairly successful CPO program in place, and see how that works out. I think to implement all these things in 1 year is a little overkill. I wasn't in favor of it before, and I'm still not at this particular time, possibly in the future, but at this time I definitely support the rescinding of 217, 12217.
Councillor Rempel.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I, on the other hand, have talked to a number of people over the last few days since I've been back, and I've had, so far I've had only one person that said they didn't like it because they know that they speed too much. And I've had 3 people that have said that they think it's a good idea, and the reasons that were brought up was, of course, safety is the first one. They felt that there's not enough enforcement in our school zones, playgrounds, intersections. They see a lot of people that are speeding through there, or if they're, the one fellow said if he's going through playground zones, almost every playground zone he goes through, when he's doing 30, there's someone on his tail and, just right behind him trying to make him go faster. The other comments I got was really the only people that are going to complain about the photo radar, or if it's used in intersections or red light, that sort of thing, is the ones that are actually breaking the law. And is that such a bad thing to penalize those people that aren't following the law? I tend to agree with them. Thank you.
Councillor Connick, then Councillor Foster.
Just a real quick question for Norma. Sorry, I meant to ask this before. The terms, what are the terms of the RFP? Are they for, is it for a 1-year trial period? Is it for a 3-year contract? What were they advertised at?
Certainly it wasn't specified in the RFP, Councillor Connick. At Council's discretion, you can direct if you wish a certain term. On average, it's normally a 2-year term for this type of contract.
Councillor Foster.
Thanks, Mayor Christie, and thanks for asking that question, Ruben. I wasn't sure whether we had the opportunity of, because this is such a contentious issue after the fact, after it's been voted on, and now we have a notice of motion on the floor, whether this could be a 1-year term or longer, whatever, so we could at least give it an opportunity. I think one of the things that I think we've all talked to lots of citizens and lots. I don't know what lots means because I hear lots. Does that mean 3 people? Does it mean 4? I took a straw vote of 12 people at a meeting the other night that was a social meeting, and I asked every single one of them in the group to give me their thoughts, yay or nay, and not one of them indicated any problem with having photo radar. And I guess the discussion went on from there about the fact that if you're guilty, you get a ticket. End of story. I mean, we have a mandate in this community to make it safe, and we're not making it safe by taking a service like this away that we have already decided upon, in my mind. So I think that it's yeah, it is obviously a very contentious issue, because I don't remember what the vote was. Was it 4-3 or 5-2? I don't know what the vote was before, but it certainly had had lots of discussion, and obviously has created lots of discussion again, which is good and democratic, and I think we can always rethink our decisions, and we'll always get feedback from 2 or 3 people that walk into our store or whatever and complain about a certain issue. I mean, we're gonna get that, that's why we're in office, but remember that it is a safety issue, and I think that people that speed in locations that they shouldn't be deserve a ticket. And do we know who's driving that vehicle? Absolutely not. Is it the husband, is it the wife, or a child? We certainly know that it's going to be one of those 3, so.
Hopefully not the child.
Thank you.
Councillor Rebel.
At least not a really young child. Thank you, Mayor Christie. And thanks for bringing up that question, Ruben, because I actually, today when I was thinking about this again, was also curious as to what our RFP was going to say in there. And I would just like to encourage administration if possible, if that RFP hasn't been fulfilled or done yet, and decide upon if we could maybe take a look at doing a 1-year, to see how things go and reevaluate after 1 year. And then we can maybe we'll learn some things from there. Thank you.
Thank you. And yes, RFPs and contracts are 2 different things. We have received 2 RFPs for that. Contract negotiation would be forthcoming if it's not rescinded, and not if it is. So, Councillor Foster, then I'll close discussion on this.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. So thank you, Councillor Rempel. I think that if we proceed with this process that we would recommend, I certainly don't have any problem with doing it for a 1-year term and seeing how it goes, and taking a relook at it at that point in time. The other last point, and it's certainly not the reason that we're doing it, but our police department is a very effective enforcement agency, one that we're very proud of in our community, and I would like to see it continue to get the resources that it needs, and this is one way of helping support that by the fine revenue.
Thank you. So the motion on the floor is to rescind Resolution 12-217. So voting in favor of it is voting in favor of rescinding, and voting opposed is leaving it as is. CEO McCrory?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I just would like to clarify, do we have an amendment for a 1-year term to that motion?
In the event that it is defeated?
In the event that it is.
Separate? Would it have to be separate then?
Certainly the motion can be amended to include for a 1-year term.
No, that's be something.
No, I think if I'm understanding correctly, Norma, what we're saying is if this is defeated, then we would look at perhaps an amended term of 1 year for a contract, I think would be supported by the ones that would be voting against this motion.
Yeah, and I think, I don't even know if we would need a motion for that. The administration has heard, and in the event that it is defeated, they would have that in mind while negotiating contract from the RFPs received. So the motion is on the floor. All those in favor of rescinding? Opposed? The motion is defeated. Thank you for your discussion, and that's a procedure that I haven't seen in my 9 years, close to 9 years on council, so it was good to go through that. Transportation Services, 2013 Transportation Master Plan. Director Gowdy.
Excuse me, can I just maybe call for a point of order? I don't know if that's correct or not, but when we were discussing bylaw 381, did we actually, let me just bring it up here, number 2 on there? Because I know Councillor Foster had read all of the
Yes,
first,
we did, yeah.
3.
We did,
and then we went back but did we do the fee as well?
I'm sorry.
I don't remember us voting.
Yeah, he read that into the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did we not separate them
No,
into
it's-
the,
We separate, the first 2 were on Councillor Foster's motion, and then we went to
and
second.
then, so
and
the
third
first
reading.
2 were included on that first?
Correct.
Together, yes.
Okay.
We have that in the original motion, is that correct, Ernie?
We'll make that out
Thank
for
you.
the
Okay.
amendments to these
Yep.
separate.
I just wasn't sure if we had missed that or not.
Thank you, good question. Director Gowdy, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. At our previous meeting of January 28th, Council was presented with a proposed scope of work for the Transportation Master Plan and requested an amendment to include a pedestrian safety aspect and a speed aspect on Highway 12 from approximately the Fire Hall, Police Station area to the intersection of Highway 2A and 12. So we have, excuse me, presented that amended scope of work to council this evening for consideration. Concurrent with that is a reduction of some of the other scope of work to keep the price within our original budget. So we have recommended decreasing the number of intersections that are counted by 3, I think it is there, and then reducing the number of locations by 2 that we're going to do a count of AM and PM peaks. So the count of AM and PM peaks is really a calibration, I guess, of your model to ensure that when you're counting your PM peaks or you're counting your AM peaks, you're getting accurate data for the other side, because we only need to count one or the other. So by comparing that throughout the community, we can make sure that we have representative numbers. So if there's any questions, I guess, on the amended scope of work or the reduction of other portions, I can certainly field those.
Thank you very much. Questions, Councillor Connick?
None really, I just want to say thank you.
Short and sweet, to the point, it's great. Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. Matt, what VISM computerized traffic model, can you maybe just describe that a little bit more, just in short form, but just to give my head a visualization of that?
Sure. It's a computerized model that you input certain traffic generators at different geographic locations, so it's sort of tied to a GIS system. And then using the available roads and roadway classes that we have, that will also be input into the model, it can sort of recreate a expected traffic pattern. And so once you have that existing model, then you can add, a new power center over here or a new residential development over here. See what the expected impact will be on your roadways. Of course, it's a best guess, with a little enhancement, but it is a good planning tool for long-range transportation planning.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion with regards to the 2013 Transportation Master Plan? Councillor Connick?
I would just like to move that the council direct administration to enter into a services contract for the 2013 Transportation Master Plan as described, as amended and described in Stantec's consulting proposal for engineering services and updated fees letter dated May 30th, 2012, January 18th, 2013, and February 8th, 2013, respectively.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Creasy, I saw you twitching over there.
Twitch. Thanks, Mayor Christie. So just to recap, the reason that we're undergoing this proposal is to try and identify if we were successful with the expansion of Highway 2A. Is that correct, Director Gowdy?
Are you asking about the amendment or the?
No, about the whole study itself.
The whole study, of course, will, we do see some changing priorities, probably due to the upgrade of Highway 2A, but really it's just a 5-year schedule of updating our transportation master plan, and it's been a little over 5 years at this point.
I guess the reason I ask is given that we have went through such a big change to the roadway infrastructure in the city, just wondering if this whole process isn't premature. I know that we're going to hear feedback after the completion of the entire project and whatnot, and I think to expect the city to come back and say that speeds are too high through downtown is probable. I don't think that we need an engineering study to tell us that, and if in fact we do choose to lower them there, we don't need a study for that either. So I'm just struggling with this one, and not totally pleased as to why we're doing it all this time.
Thank you. Councillor Rempel?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is the study not going to definitely show, I think what you just said, different traffic patterns now that Highway 2A has been changed, and is that not something that we probably should know, especially if we're looking at adding some major roads over the next few years? Is that a good reason to do this?
Yeah, a lot of the, excuse me, I guess a lot of the information that we've used to plan our signalization of different intersections and upgrades of roadways has come from previous transportation master plan. Those are sort of the Bible of transportation around here that we go by. Now, it's tied to actual development areas and not certain years for triggers, so obviously there is changing priorities as we go through. Certain funding becomes available, that sort of thing. So we don't follow the plan exactly, but we always consider the master plan in our long-range planning and decision-making. And certainly with Highway 2A being upgraded sooner than was anticipated in the previous master plan, that is going to change traffic patterns pretty dramatically, is our expectation, I guess. And so this transportation master plan will take that into account.
Thank you.
Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. Just in the questions that have been asked, maybe I'm a little bit confused now as to one of the triggers will be, excuse me, one of the issues will be the speed on 2A, which has not specifically been indicated, although it talks about all the different traffic intersections of that. So if this study is a goal, we will find out within what time frame as to what our speed limit should be. Is that part of the discussion that will be on 2A as well? They'll come back and indicate to us, because I think why I'm asking that question is we seem to get an awful lot of questions right now from everyone in our community. When the heck is that speed limit going to change? And we keep saying as soon as we have ownership of 2A or ownership of the highways. That may not be the case.
Well, excuse me, we've always said that we would have the power to do that once we take ownership of the highways. Part of the original scope of this study and included in this proposed amended scope is to make a recommendation for speeds on Highway 2A as well on the upgraded road.
So time frame that, roughly, this study?
On the study itself?
Yeah.
Once the study is complete, we would be able to implement the new speeds at council's discretion.
And the schedule is.
Oh, sorry, we're asking the schedule for that.
Yeah, just.
Sorry, my computer is shut down, unfortunately.
Was it within the next? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it should be written in the summer.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And I too want to thank you, Director Gowdy. You were asked to take this back and change the scope a little bit, but keep it within the budget that you were given, and you've done just that. So thank you very, very much for doing that. Is there any further discussion? This motion is on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Alright, let's bounce down to Council Administrative Coordinator. Reports on that. CEO McQuarrie.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Before Council this evening is a memorandum outlining the responsibility and duties of the Council Administrative Coordinator. Of course, this position was approved during 2013 budget deliberations. It is presented as a half-time position, and the position is here to provide support and assistance to Mayor and Council. Some of the duties that have been identified, essentially there are three aspects to the duties. One being administrative, the other being events, and the third being public relations. So on the administrative side, it would entail the writing of letters and managing correspondence. On the event side, there are several events that we currently host in the community, certainly sponsored by Mayor and Council, and they range everything from Mayor for a Day to Mayor's Awards of Excellence. We have involvement in Lacombe Days and Canada Day. Certainly on many of the holidays throughout the year. And then in terms of public relations, we're certainly looking at having the position, or the individual in the position, work closely and collaborate with our communications coordinator on the research and preparation of speeches, speaking notes, and council's attendance at various events you're asked to be at. I do want to highlight for council that this position is responsible to the office of the CAO. As you know, your only employee is the CAO, and therefore the position is not accountable to council, it's accountable to the CAO office. The information being presented in this report is being presented as information, and certainly it's deemed that this position will be will very much help in terms of the workload that's been created and dispersed across the organization in terms of the planning and management of much of the work that you see within the memorandum.
Thank you. Councilor Rebel.
I'd like to move that we accept this report as information.
Thank you very much. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? So carried. Thank you. Let's go to council sponsorship for fundraising events. CEO McQuarrie.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Before you this evening, Council, you have two requests for sponsorship. The first being from the Lacombe Leadership Prayer Breakfast, which will be hosted on Thursday, February 21st. And secondly, the Lacombe Athletic Park Gala, which will be hosted on March 9th, both, of course, this year. In the past, I will note that Council has sponsored events of this nature, and of course, these are events that are of a fundraising nature, through the purchase of a table. The most tables offer Council a total seat number of 8. Unfortunately, without a formal policy on the matter, it's at Council's discretion from event to event which you wish to support. I will note also that this is the 2nd annual Lacombe Leadership Prayer Breakfast and the 4th annual Lacombe Athletic Park Gala. Both were very successful in the past, and I anticipate that will continue into the future. And no doubt that the proceeds are going to very worthwhile causes. Also of interest to Council is the fact that within your advertising and promotion budget, you have a total of $2,500 to expend on this type of sponsorship. To date, none of these monies have been expended in 2013. The recommendation before you this evening is that you sponsored the Lacombe Leadership Prayer Breakfast, a table of 8 for this event at a cost of $200, and you sponsored the Lacombe Athletic Park Fundraising Gala, again a table of 8 at a cost of $750, and both cases that the monies be derived from the general promotion budget.
Thank you. Discussion, questions? Councillor Koenig?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. The 2,500, that's per budget year, not over 3 years, correct? Just,
Correct.
thank you.
Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. Very positive that we would want to hopefully be able to participate. I would just, I just want to make sure that we have a full attendance, that we would not have an empty couple of chairs at the table. And so if councillors, I think this is the intention, is that councillors are the ones that this budget's coming out of. So if there are going to be several that are away, are we okay with making sure that we invite other administration and that sort of thing to these functions?
Yeah, I agree. In the past, we've done this as well. We've brought it to council, passed it. We've got tables at functions, and inevitably there's a chair or two empty, and yes, I agree that we should invite that if not all seats are taken by council, that we invite administration as well. Councillor Boswell?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I just want to make note, I've already got tickets for the prayer breakfast. Mind you, I suppose I can get them paid for. Otherwise, I will not be in attendance on March 9th for the Lacombe Gala. Just so that everybody's aware that there's definitely seats available.
Thank you. Councillor Creasy?
I think that Councillor Kite has indicated she will not be here for the prayer breakfast, and my time's already spoken for too. I'm out of the city at that time, so I will not be in attendance for that. I guess no one's brought it up, and I just have a hard time mixing religion and politics, and while I think it's great for all of us to attend this, I don't think this is necessarily an event that should be procured from public funds. I really don't think that it's right at all. And I certainly support everybody's choice to go. In fact, I would probably go if I was going to be here. I don't think that this is one that we look favorably upon citizens coming out of the public coffers, so that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. And I'm not sure who brought these forward with regards to that, and I don't believe that is being hosted by the Lacombe Ministerial, and I don't believe it's a fundraiser. I think they're certainly open to break even, and but I'm not sure who brought these forward, but it is there for our decision, and we're looking for a motion either way. Councillor Koenig?
You want them separated or together?
Do them together.
Okay. Well, I can make that. I'm doing a lot of motions tonight. Maybe someone else.
Well, go ahead, that's fine.
Okay, well, I also move that council support the Lacombe Leadership Prayer Breakfast fundraiser purchase table at a cost of $200 to be derived from council general promotions, and that council support the Lacombe Thunder Park fundraising gala purchase table at a cost of $750 to be derived from council general promotions. And I would like to go to both. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rempel?
Is there anything in the MGA about an event like this that may have some sort of religious or, well, I guess religious sort of background to it?
To Councillor Rempel, there is nothing in the MJ that speaks to the type of event. Normally, the attendance of council at an event of this nature is determined by policy.
Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. So I guess just to take it further before we vote, just make sure that we get back to Norma as to specifically which ones we can go to, so that others from administration, because I think it's a nice perk to be able to offer this to administration as well, if we can't all go. And I'm certainly going to be gone in March, so I won't be able to attend the second one, but to get back to Norma, or to Doreen, sorry. I said Norma twice, didn't I?
All right, any further questions? Motions on the floor? All those in favor? Opposed? So carried. Thank you. And yes, please get a hold of Doreen with regards to your attendance. All right, we have about 9 minutes before our public hearing. Let's take a quick break. Be back at 6:30. Thank you.
I didn't see any of the creek on the weekend, and I heard that Martin in the event. Did you see some creek? Okay, we were at our daughters, and so it was not on our system. What's
on that site. Peter or something, or social media site.
Sorry.
Yeah, basically, it sounds like it doesn't have very much to do with our building at all.
How are you? Good, good. What do you know?
Well, I've always something like that. It could be a small operation.
Back to the grind, eh?
Back at her.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's almost equivalent to me of buying political seats, like a religious thing.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't have a problem with people going. I'm nice and I would go.
yeah,
Using public funds to pay for it.
yeah. It's gonna be a push, yeah.
And maybe they've changed that, cause I know back when I was.
So that must have changed. That must have changed, 'cause yeah, they said I think that's what they were. So my brother did that. And, he, went to
I actually went up there for an interview.
went down there.
Drove up there.
But he said still, so, yeah.
Damn.
Yes, and yes.
Did you rate them?
I don't know how that is possible, but I know it's all that part of that.
Several hours, thank you.
Seriously? Really? No way. Is that
Usually approximately. We don't really care, but.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, we will come back to order. And I will call to order the public hearing for bylaw 300.73, rezoning R2 to R4. And I declare it open at 6:30, and it's held pursuant to section 7, 8, 230, 606, 692 of the Municipal Government Act 2000 as amended. And I would ask the legislative coordinator to confirm the purpose of the public hearing, that the public hearing notice was advertised in the local paper and on what dates, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package be read into the record.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. The purpose of the public hearing is to consider bylaw 300.73, a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 300 by rezoning lands which are described as Lot 5, Block 30, Plan RN 1E from R2, General Residential District to R4, Medium Density Residential District. The statutory public hearing notice was advertised in the Lacombe Globe on January 31st and February 7, 2013, in accordance with Section 606 of the MGA. No written submissions were received.
Thank you very much. I would ask that any persons giving oral presentations to clearly state their name, and the presentations are brief and to the point. We will start the public hearing presentation process with Planner Kirchner.
Thank you. The city received an application for the redesignation of the land described as Lot 5, Block 30, Plan RN1E, IE, which is also known as 5526 53rd Avenue, from General Residential District to Medium Density Residential District. The application was received from First Quality Renovation for this rezoning. This rezoning will help facilitate the future development of a medium density residential development on the property. First reading of this bylaw was given at the January 14th, 2013 meeting of council. The applicant wishes to develop a medium-density residential development on the property. Conceptual drawings have been provided to illustrate the potential development of a fourplex. The drawings provide an illustration of a design with attached garages. The applicant requested that these drawings be circulated as part of the initial notification process to the neighbors. The applicant believes that the proposed development and change of use would have a positive impact on the property values within the neighborhood. The property is located in an area with some diverse zoning. To the north and to the south sides of 53rd Avenue are zoned R2. The properties located directly north are zoned R4. Further east, there are blocks of R4 medium-density residential lots. Further north and west, there are areas of R1B lots, and further south, there are more R2 lots. So in general, the further west you go, you enter areas that are have been zoned for lower density development. They didn't have a great deal of upzoning occur in the past. The lot is located in the middle of a residential block, located 2 blocks west of C&E Trail. The proximity to C&E Trail allows for an easy and direct route to the traffic lights at 50th Avenue, thus encouraging traffic to move efficiently out of the residential neighborhood. The property is also characterized by having a rear lane at the north boundary. This will allow for an additional access point to the property and increased options for the development of on-site parking. It should be noted that this property, rezoning was introduced before the adoption of the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan, and thus falls under the Heart of Town Area Redevelopment Plan. In that plan, there was an acknowledgement of the need for higher density residential, including rental properties. The Heart of Town Plan creates goals to help encourage the development of a diverse residential housing stock. Some of these include the provision for a variety of housing type choices and encourage multi-unit housing to be distributed throughout the town. Due to the property's proximity to C&E Trail, lane access, adjacent R4 properties, and consistency with the Heart of Town Plan, administration feels that redesignating this property to R4 would be appropriate. On December 17th, a notification letter was sent to adjacent property owners, informing them of the submittal of this application. This included a copy of the conceptual drawings at the request of the applicant. On January 16th, a notification letter was sent to the adjacent property owners, informing them of the date of the public hearing. One letter was received in regards to this application and can be viewed as an attachment. The letter writer also phoned the city asking for clarification. City staff is recommending that after the public hearing has been closed, that council give second and final reading to bylaw 300.73.
Thank you very much. I would ask that anybody here wishes to speak in favor of the amendment come forth now. Seeing none, I would ask anyone in the room here that would like to speak opposed to the amendment, please come forward and do so now.
My name is Betty Arkenstall, and I live at 5523 53rd Avenue, which is right across the street.
Super.
I have quite a lot of concerns, actually, especially in regards to the volume of traffic.
If I could just get you to grab a seat there and use the mic so that everybody can hear you. And we'll just get you to state your name again, and the floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Betty Arkenstall. I live at 5523 53rd Avenue, which is right across the street. I do have quite a lot of concerns. Primarily, the major one is the volume of traffic. Already across the street, recently the house there was, basement suite was put in, so now that's increased the volume of traffic, the amount of traffic and the parking already on our street. Also, the drawings that we were provided with doesn't leave any room in the back for parking, like you just stated. It seems to me that it takes up the entire lot from start to finish, with 2 garages in the front, 2 in the back. I'm not really able to see how that allows for any extra parking. and I'm wondering how it does fit into sort of the future downtown plan. I truly believe that it is not beneficial to the ambience of our neighborhood at all. I just think that I would agree with duplex sort of R2 zoning, but this medium density, I'm just not sure even that the lot that's allowed there would be able sort of to handle this, like, especially the volume of cars, traffic, people. As I previously stated, there's already difficulties with parking, just in terms of the recent basement suite that was put in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With regards to the plan that you have there,
Yes?
what kind of plan is that? Was that supplied with the letter that came to
Yes,
you?
it was.
Planner Kirchner?
Those are simply conceptual drawings. There has been no application, there has been no site plan, and our development officer is unable to review any applications until they come in as a development permit application. So that's simply conceptual drawings that us in the department have been doing as a courtesy. The applicant chose to want to share them with the neighbors, but it in no means demonstrates 100% what would be going on the lot. Everything would be designed based on the lot width and meeting our bylaw requirements for side yard, front yard, and rear yard provision. As well, all parking would need to be provided on site, as should have been done and would have been done for the basement suite. So if you do have any issues with the basement suite parking on site, I'd suggest contacting our bylaw officers because they are provided locations on site to park.
Okay, thank you. Were there any questions from council?
Can I speak on that same subject, or?
Please come forward, yep, and state your name.
My name is Elaine Van Drunen, and I live at 5527 54th Avenue, which is right directly behind that fourplex that's supposed to be going in. And parking was one of the issues, because I have no fence and I have a piece of grass back there and I have visions of them parking in my garden. But also, we're getting really saturated with all these townhouses. I live on 54th Avenue. Now if I go east of the end, there's 5 and there's 2 more across the road. And then on the north side of 54th Avenue, where Mary and Safe live, there's 2 houses going down and there's 7 plex going in there. And across from me is 2 duplexes. And then there's the apartments if you go east on the north side of the road. There's 2 apartments and there's also, like, we're getting really saturated in that area with the townhouses. And that's another concern with all the traffic there also. And but anyway, I'm really concerned about that it's just getting too saturated. And that devaluates my property, which at my age I'm looking to sell, but I can't find a place other than townhouses to buy or to even rent, because I don't want to go into say the Royal Oak or one of those. I'm not ready for that. But I'd like to, and there's not many around. It's just on a one level, and they should be building some of those.
Okay.
Because on my side, it's zoned for fourplex too. Where on my property is zoned for that.
Okay.
That's my concern.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions, council? No. Thank you very, very much.
Okay.
And is there any other person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard within this public hearing? Seeing none, I will declare the public hearing for bylaw 300.73 closed at 6:42 p.m. Thank you very, very much. We will move to the bylaw discussion, rezoning R2 to R4, Bylaw 300.73, Leonard Kirchner.
Thank you. In addition to what I spoke of before, I did take the opportunity to drive around the neighborhood and map out in the immediate adjacency current multifamily units. If anyone wants to see it for clarification, I have some additional copies. Ruben would like a copy. Pass that back there. Just that way we can get a sense of what is physically included in the area. To further the discussion, I just simply took partial walks to the north, south, east, and west, so I wasn't mapping the entire area between CNE Trail and 58th. As you can see, there is a fair chunk of single-family residential, and there are a few areas that do have a duplex, a row house, and an apartment complex. But in comparison to some of the other areas in town that have seen a lot of rezoning occurring, for instance, the one that was posted by council a few weeks ago, it's a lot less dense than some of the other areas in town. Think of anything else, but I can answer any questions or provide clarification.
Thank you very much. Council, discussion? Councillor Rousman and Councillor Foster.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I do have definite concerns about changing this particular zoning for a number of reasons. One being that directly behind and to the east of this property is already a substantial amount of R4. That being said, at present they are not, there's not a whole lot of intensity for, or a whole lot of density, but they are zoned for that, and if a developer comes in and buys a chunk of land, a number of properties, they do have an opportunity to put a fairly good-sized medium density development in that area. I would be definitely concerned as well about traffic in that area. Beyond that, I have concerns too about our process. It's a courtesy to provide a conceptual drawing for the neighbors and for council as a consideration. I am fully fully understanding that is not to be seriously considered because it does need to comply. But the particular project that he is proposing, that he wanted to show to the neighbors, gives in my opinion then, a clear indication of what he intends to submit to MPC for approval. A fourplex, of course, is going to end up being a discretionary use for that particular property. And he's got a number of relaxations that are going to end up being required based on his proposal. And the major one being, you're allowed 35% coverage on an R4, and he is proposing 59% based on the building size. So already that causes me an issue with what there's being presented. This is a little spot zoning, I think, in my opinion, because it's an R2 all the way through that block, and I would like to keep it as an R2.
Thank you, Councillor Bosman, with regards to that, but this is with regards to rezoning. We aren't privy to those conceptual drawings, or whether it's discretionary, or whether it meets or whether it doesn't. So this is strictly with regards to rezoning. Thank you. Councillor Foster.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I guess the overriding fact that we have to look at when we look at these types of things is have we done the right thing in the community? And I believe that with all the discussion we've had in respect to the heart of downtown, or heart of town, has been great, because we now have a definition of where we want to go and what we want to do. And I think the overriding factor is that we've heard throughout our community that we do need to increase our density, and I think we've accomplished that with this plan. And of course, we're not going to make everyone happy. That's part of the democratic process when we look at these things as to who happens to be in an area that's going to be affected. But I really feel that that it can be an opportunity to do things really, really well. And I don't want to go back into detail about some of the developments that we've looked at in the past, but I took an opportunity this weekend to look in Edmonton in the old barracks section. I don't know if anyone else is familiar with that, but they've done the homes are very, very small homes with front verandas, with no front drive garages, you know, the kind of the concept that we were trying to accomplish. But increasing density was the main issue in trying to accommodate more and more opportunities for people, and I just think that our heart of town has accomplished that, and this area is, in my way of thinking, a pretty good area for that type of development. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Connick?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I do have some concerns with changing the rezoning from an R2 to an R4. I'm not opposed to redevelopment. I agree with the DART plan. I think there are opportunities for redevelopment in any given neighborhood. However, I said this when the other rezoning came up prior that we voted against, that I really think we need to have something in place that stipulates how much per any given block. We have it for secondary suites. You know, only 10% of any given block can be have secondary suites on it, and I really would like to see something in place going forward. Yes, the whole block is zoned R2 and could potentially be all duplexes, but I struggle with that given that these have all been single-family dwelling lots in the past. I'd like to see that mix continue, and I don't want to see an oversaturation occur. And so I remain opposed to this until such time. I really like, because we're going to see more and more of this. We are. And I'd really like to have something in place that says on any given block that you can only have 20% be redeveloped or something. I just think going forward we need to retain that mix and increase our density, but it's got to be, you know, I've seen the diagram that Jennifer's provided, and thank you for that. But I'd still like to see something in place, so I remain opposed to this.
Planner Kirchner, then CEO McQuarrie.
In regards to creating a density maximum, the real challenge here would be if it's a permitted use, we have to approve it. And if a whole block is allowed to have 4plexes or 10plexes, we wouldn't have the ability to state that they couldn't do it because we have a density issue. So if in the ideal world we were working on a blank slate where every property had the same zoning, it would work fine. And with the basement suite issue, that's how it works because only specific areas are allowed to have it, and then you can max out. I think this would be very complex. I don't know how we would create a density situation that would work given the uniqueness of every block in the downtown area. It would be quite a challenge. I don't know if we could even accomplish.
And I understand that, I get that, thank you. My problem is a lot of these areas of town were just made a blanket rezoning. At one time they were all R1 A's, were they not? Vast majority. And you know, there was a blanket move to rezone whole blocks. I'm not sure we can fix things that have occurred well, we can't, obviously, it's R2. And you're right, we can do all duplexes there if we want. But I struggle with that too. I don't think that's inherently right either. You're right, I understand where you're coming from. But
CEO McQuarrie.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Just further to Planner Kirchner's comments, it is very difficult for us to regulate development. Council regulates zoning, so you determine what the appropriate zoning is, and if council supports the zoning, then the bylaw then determines what can be built and constructed. I think if you try and enter into any further further detail around that, it's going to be, become very convoluted and very difficult for people to develop in this community.
Councillor Creasy?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. Just some clarification on this multi-use map that you provided. Here, the green parcel.
So that is park space.
Okay, and so in the remainder of the R1 A and B to the left of the subject property here, there's no other.
Simply anything that's been colored in yellow, pink, red, orange, were the ones I looked at. Anything that's in gray is just the base map that I utilized. I didn't have the time really to go and survey the entire area. It would be very time consuming.
No, that answers my question, thank you. I too am certainly in favor of development. I'm just not sure that inserting an R4 in the middle of this R2 parcel is necessarily in the best interest of this particular area, but I too agree that there needs to be something put in place whereby, because unlike you, Ruben, this is not going to end. I mean, and while we do have to entertain continuing development in our city, it's just I struggle with these multi-family developments in the middle of single residential units and duplex areas. I think that it may be creating future problems as much as we're solving present housing needs. So, thank you.
Planner Kirchner, then Director Minchin.
I'd just like to remind Council, this is the last rezoning application we'll ever see coming in under the Heart of Town plan. And those of you who are familiar with the downtown plan know that it is much more stringent in regards to what administration is able to support. With the Heart of Town plan, pretty much it states rezoning everywhere. It's a very broad mandate, whereas the downtown plan does divide the community into areas, and for the most part it's emphasizing rezoning on corner lots, lots that are on busier streets already. It's very strategic, and it provides administration with a great deal more flexibility to use our judgment as to what we will support. So for the most part, you'll only be seeing rezoning applications coming to council with administration support that will be a lot more stringent with how we process it than you have in the past. So optimism there.
Thank you. Director Minchin? That was your comment. Thank you. All right, and you are looking for second and third reading tonight, Planner Kirchner?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Council? Councillor Foster?
Move that council give a second reading to bylaw 300.73.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Defeated. So there's no reason to go to third reading? Can't. Anyways, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Kirchner.
Problem.
Council Legislative, Local Authorities Election Act, CEO Quarry. Tell us about Bill 7.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Bill 7, as we all know, is a bill to amend the Local Authorities Election Act. For Council's information, it also addressed the Provincial Elections Act in terms of amendments. The Local Authorities Election Act, just to speak about that a little bit, it sets out the election processes and procedures for municipal elections and school board elections. It was enacted in 1983, and of course it's been amended many times since. In 2012, the Minister of Municipal Affairs committed to a review of the act, and that was done. There was a number of opportunities for public input into these revisions. And of course, the principles they looked at, they wanted to ensure public confidence in the election process and integrity. They wanted to encourage the public's role and participation. And they wanted to ensure that the legislation addressed both small and large jurisdictions. In terms of the issues within that review, they looked at term of office, residency, timing of elections, nominations, eligibility to vote, campaign financing, and ballot procedure. I also wanted to point out to council that within the city of Lacombe, or at that time town of Lacombe, in March 2010, council adopted bylaw 358, the municipal election bylaw. Essentially, this bylaw enables electronic voting within the community. Hence, it's recommended that this bylaw remain in place. There are provisions, or there are within the bylaw items that are duplicated in the Local Authorities Election Act. However, there is nothing in contravention with that act, therefore there's no amendments proposed this evening. In addition to that particular bylaw, there was bylaw 361 that was introduced at that time. And that bylaw, it dealt with, more specifically with disclosure, financial disclosure, campaign contributions, and that it is recommended that that bylaw is rescinded. Certainly it's now redundant. All of those items are currently covered in the amendments that have come forward to the Local Authorities Election Act. And of course this is before council this evening. There seem to be a lot of questions around, well, what changes are there and when are they taking place? So in terms of the October 2013 municipal election, I just want to highlight some of the major changes for you. The first being term of office. We are moving from a 3-year to a 4-year term, and that's effective in October 2013. Nominations is another area to be aware of, and what this means is that the returning officer can refuse a candidate's nomination if they don't have the number of eligible electors on their form. The next area I'll speak about is proof of elector eligibility, and this is about standardizing required ID where there is not a list of electors prepared. At this time, it's indicated that one piece of picture ID locating place of residence is required. I will also tell you that at council's discretion, you can pass a bylaw, and it has to be passed 6 months before nomination day. In terms of any variation you wish to make or to the number and types of ID that might be acceptable. I don't know that that's necessary, but certainly it's a consideration of council if you feel that you would like to move in that direction. Next, section 147 for 1.1, campaign disclosure statements. This speaks to any surplus monies from the municipal campaign must be donated to either the municipality or charity, and this includes amounts less than $500 if the individual is not going to run in the next general election. Same section 147.4 1.2 also speaks to disclosure, and in this instance the candidate is required to clear any campaign deficits, again, if they're not running in the next general election. The compliance must be within 6 months after the date of the next general election. All right. There is an amendment that does not come into effect for the 2013 election. It, in fact, will come into effect January 1st, 2014, and that's the registration of candidates. So potential municipal candidates are required to register with the municipality before they accept any campaign contributions prior to nomination day. All right, so this has not been required in the past, but it will be a requirement from 2014 onward. There are also a number of technical amendments or changes, not of the same significance, but certainly they do come into effect for the 2013 election. First being section 119, and that's to it where there is a joint election agreement. If one authority passes a bylaw, that bylaw it cannot be imposed upon the other authority. All right. We then have section 16. An official agent is no longer required to take an official oath. Section 22, this deals with an employee of a municipality, school district, or division, charter school, private school, who wishes to be nominated as a candidate. They have the right and ability to take a leave of absence without pay in order to do so. Section 54, 1.1, this provides clarity in terms of the candidate's official agent or scrutineer. So if there's an objection to a statement, and the deputy returning officer, or a deputy returning officer at a voting station, will register the reason for the objection and shall initiate the objection. Now that can only be made at the time the statement is made to which the official agent or scrutineer is objecting to. Section 68.101, and this is simply clarify that the official agent information must be included on the nomination form, and if there's a new agent appointed, notification of such must be made. Section 695, and this is clarifying to ensure that there's designated places within a voting station to allow the candidate or candidate's official agent or scrutineer to observe a person making a statement. Section 77.1, this is allows the resolution for a special ballot to be passed at any time prior to nomination date, and allows an elector to request a special ballot from the day after the resolution is passed. The minister must be notified of this. Section 77.2, this is aligned with special ballot provisions, and it's in terms of proof of elector eligibility, and to be consistent in terms of preference to elector versus voter. Section 98.1, this simply states that a recount can be made at one or more voting stations, certainly if there's a valid reason for that. Section 147.31, it allows the candidate to open up a campaign account at a financial institution in their own name. Section 147.54, the meaning of registered charity has been updated. And section 147.6, it's been removed. There are a couple of technical amendments that will not take effect at the 2013 election. The first being regarding all surplus monies, including the $500 or less, on or before March 1st, immediately following a general election, or in the case of a by-election, within 120 days after the by-election. If a candidate's disclosure statement shows the surplus, the candidate must pay the surplus to the municipality. Section 147.72, if a candidate is found guilty, the court may, in addition to the penalty, impose, order the candidate to pay the surplus to the municipality as soon as possible. And the others, I don't have explicit detail, and of course they're not coming to effect for this election, and we can review those at a later date. This is presented to council as information, so council is aware of the changes to the act in the upcoming election. So I would ask that council rescind bylaw 361, campaign contribution and expense disclosures, the City of Lacombe bylaw, and that you accept the report of amendments as information.
Thank you very much. Discussion, questions? Councillor Foster?
I'd like to make a recommendation that council accept the report on amendments to the Local Authorities Election Act.
Councillor Bosma?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I really do appreciate that there's been some tweaking in this particular act. I just want a little bit of clarification on a couple of items. What do they mean by special ballot? First of all.
To Councillor Bosma, a special ballot means that an individual cannot attend the voting station on election day. So a special ballot is, there's provision for that individual to vote otherwise, whether that mean, if they're away out of town.
Like a proxy?
They would order special.
Yeah, okay, and then is there a requirement at present when an elector comes to vote that they do need to provide an identification? I And it's one thing that they have a list, you know, and in a small town as we have, lots of people know each other, so it's not that really big of a deal, but, you know, and new people in town or somebody who does not know an individual, do they need to provide some sort of identification to prove that they are the elector that is on the list?
There is no current requirement to present identification.
Director Mitchin?
Currently within the city of Lacombe, there is no requirement to show ID as part of an election. All you have to do is simply sign the voter or elector declaration form stating that you're eligible to vote. We also don't keep voter lists either at the municipal level. We don't have access to the provincial, so we have to do one on our own. So we typically, like most other municipalities, don't do voter lists either. So the ID thing will be a new item, especially for new residents. The ID requirements, there's a whole list of what you need to do is prove two things for election day. There's three things actually. One, that you're 18, one, that you're a resident of Canada, that you lived in Alberta for at least 6 months, and on the day of election that you are a resident of Lacombe. And so basically there's a combination of picture ID as well as proof of residence ID that needs to be provided. A lengthy list that the province has identified as everything from passports to utility notices to help prove residency. We do need to do a rather extensive education component because the vast majority of people, of course, have always voted without that consideration. So that will be a new thing that we'll have to educate them on.
Thank you. Councillor Connick?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. Did you say 2 pieces or 1 piece of ID?
The uniform standard will be one piece of picture identification.
Okay, thank you. My question is bylaw 358. Will we have, I'm assuming we'll have a chance to revisit this bylaw prior to the next election? Or just, for example, I'm talking about advanced voting. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think there was an advance poll at the last election. Was there 2? I had people coming before saying I couldn't vote in advance. Okay.
There will be an advance poll prior to this election, and that will come before council, and by resolution you will approve that.
Okay, no, I just wanted to make sure that was the case. My other quick question, just again, not kind of off topic, but electronic voting, is there a chance for a recount?
There's absolutely opportunity for recount, should there be a valid reason for requesting that recount, yes.
And what is that typically, that you lose within 5 or you win within 5 votes? Or
Certainly a very close vote would be a reason for a recount. Or if there were a number of votes that were spoiled then that might also be cause for recount depending upon the outcome of that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how do you spoil electronic vote? Anyways, it's interesting, I'm just musing.
Director Mitchin, do you have anything to add to that?
So each electronic ballot box does have its own audit trail for each vote counted. Certainly a recount could occur in electronic. Spoiled ballots are usually, we do still have spoiled ballots, and that is in the instance when someone doesn't vote for anybody. You can also have, but most likely you'll see challenges based on someone present challenging the legitimacy of someone being able to vote. That's going to be the most, and in fact, in most cases, that's where, even with paper ballots, that's where recounts are usually done. There are 2 separate processes. One is whenever the returning officer would do a recount, and there's quite an elaborate procedure required if that happens. There's also a judicial recount that can occur as well, and that's another extensive procedure that requires that as well. And that judicial can usually be done either by the city or by one of the candidates.
Thank you. Any further discussion? The motion is on the floor to accept the report on amendments to the Local Authorities Election Act. All those in favor? So carried. And we're looking, now that we've accepted that, the Local Authorities Election Act basically makes our bylaw 361 redundant, so we're looking to rescind bylaw 361, is that correct?
Just for clarification, you'll actually have to pass another bylaw to repeal it, but we are looking for direction from council today as to whether that should go forward or not.
Yes, thank you for that clarification, Director Minchin. For council's information, a bylaw must be repealed the same way it was passed.
So we won't be doing that right now.
Looking for direction, Mayor Christie, that council is supportive of doing so.
You bet. As it being redundant, I think that we're in favor of moving in that direction. Yep, thank you very much. We will go to Infrastructure Services Off-Site Levy Framework Infrastructure Review. Mr. Gowdy.
Mayor Christie. As council will recall, earlier in the year we initiated a reconstruction of our offsite levy bylaw. This is something that has been not visited since 2006 and was probably close to due for a revisit several years ago. So we're at kind of a critical milestone where we want to select which infrastructure is going to be included in the new offsite levy bylaw. So we wanted to come to council and get your endorsement on what infrastructure we've selected and has been proposed for inclusion in the new bylaw, and see if there's any thoughts or discussion otherwise. So I think what I'll do is maybe go through the different types of infrastructure and just highlight what the changes are from our previous bylaw. So under roads, here we've proposed to only include arterial roadways. This has been in the past practice in Lacombe, but certainly the Municipal Government Act does permit municipalities to charge for one level lower of roads called collective roads. We haven't deemed that necessary because collective roads have typically been funded by the developer that is actually developing the section that contains the collector roadway, so he or she being the benefiting developer is responsible for the cost, and that's worked very well. In cases where the collector roadway would bisect two developments, then we assist the initial developer with recovering costs from the subsequent developer, as identified in the report there. Having trouble with this computer. Next is water. One change under water that we have is that we used to charge as offsites only those diameters of pipe which would be above 300 millimeters, so 350 and above. In the new bylaw, we propose to include 300 and above. So that 300 millimeter or 1 foot pipe range would be included in the new offsite levy. That is a change for us and is consistent with other municipalities. Under stormwater, this is probably where you're going to see the biggest change. We've really never included stormwater infrastructure in our offsite levy bylaw in the past because stormwater, quite frankly, was something that was kind of not as high on the priority list as other infrastructure. Obviously, recent events, we've seen that this is something that's very important to the community and really important to the safety of our community in terms of financial health and sustainability. So we have proposed to include some long-term plans for interconnection of our existing storm ponds to provide a better protection against stormwater backups. And so that is a change for us to include this infrastructure. Under sanitary sewer, there's really no change to the infrastructure that we proposed from previous, or that's been included in previous bylaws. We're proposing to include lift stations and large diameter trunks that would benefit multiple areas. So those have actually already been selected, the locations, or the approximate locations of those lift stations that are foreseen to be needed for growth within the community. And that's really that's the limit of the infrastructure that's proposed for inclusion in the offset levy bylaw. I'd ask for questions or comments from there.
Thank you very much. Questions, discussion? Councillor Creasy?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I guess I find this a bit of a difficult concept for those that don't deal with these kind of things every day. The infrastructure end of it. At the end of the day, it's going to boil down to dollars and cents and how much future developments can bear or afford to put in towards these items. So when we really don't have a clue which one is going to result in a higher increase than another, or what the total percentage of the overall offsite levy will be, I mean, why not just include them all? I'm not sure I fully appreciate this exercise at this particular point.
Well, the only I guess I would disagree with the statement that this is going to be based upon what future developments can bear. I would say that what should be considered is what future developments will need. And those needs that are driven by that development should be included as part of our offset levies, regardless of the cost. If a new widget is needed for development X, then that development should pay for that new widget. Is the basis of this this exercise. So, as far as the final cost, you're saying, where's the cost? How can I make a decision about the cost before us? The cost is really something that comes after in this process. So first we would select, well, what areas do the developments need to be accommodating? Should it be 300 millimeter pipes, or should it be 400 millimeter pipes, or should it be everything over 150 millimeters? That's a philosophical discussion as to what a development needs to be serviced within the community. The cost of a 300 millimeter pipe is the cost of a 300 millimeter pipe. That's not something that's, I guess, up for debate within this program. It's just a matter of whether new development should pay for that, or whether existing ratepayers should subsidize future development.
CEO Corey, did you want to add to it?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I think Director Gowdy covered it very well. Insofar as offsite levies, if development does not pay for required infrastructure, future infrastructure, then it will ultimately be the responsibility of the existing tax base to do so. So I believe it's in our best interest to identify that infrastructure, agree on what it will be, and then move forward in terms of determining the appropriation of cost. And not all new infrastructure will be appropriated to new development. Some of it will certainly benefit existing development. So we will break down in terms of percentage of benefit to existing versus new. And that is the next step in this process. But I believe that we need to have consensus that the development or the infrastructure identified is infrastructure that council can support.
Thank you. So I appreciate your answer, Matt. And I guess you're right, it is a philosophical thing. When it comes to commercial industrial areas, then are we assuming that it's only the individual landowner that is benefiting from that service, or does it benefit the entire community? I think lots would argue that increased retail and commercial benefits the entire community. So I really have a hard time with this one. I don't know if it's, I can appreciate wanting some kind of a policy in place, if whether or not that's going to make it more or less difficult to do on an overall basis, or if it's, I mean, I guess what it boils down to is, I think that we need to remain competitive, and if this whole exercise is going to result in an offsite levy that is disproportionately higher than other communities, then we will have wasted a large sum of money for no gain whatsoever. So, as far as who's going to benefit from certain developments and whatnot, that's a very difficult thing to put a handle on. So that was the only point I was trying to make with that.
And I think that's a very valid point. What what we wanna do here is kind of from an engineering and planning perspective, say, here's the infrastructure that should be included, here's our recommended level of funding from each development area, and certainly council will have an opportunity, once that proposal is put forward with costs, with percentages for each area, if you feel that that hampers a specific land or is onerous on the development community, then there is an opportunity for review at that stage once the final levies are being set. This step that's before you tonight is just to say what size of pipe, or should pump stations be included, or what class of road should be included. And so certainly that sets direction, but there is an opportunity for review upon the final numbers.
And so is it your recommendation that all of those services be included then?
I've recommended that all of these services would be included, which is less than the allowable classes of infrastructure that could be included under the Municipal Government Act for offset levies.
Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I'd like to delay my question for Elizabeth.
Thank you. And I too, I think that process is being caught in the middle of this here. Definitely, I think an update to our offsite levies is in need, since it hasn't been done since 2006. So I would, on the opposite side of that, hate to be lagging as well, missing out on infrastructure funding that should be coming back to us that we're missing out on, because that just makes our current citizens subsidize future development. So I think we have to be up to date. I don't think any of us want to put us out of any developers league with regards to surrounding communities and whatnot, but definitely bringing it up to date, keeping it real, and as Director Gowdy said, we aren't putting off-site levies on as much infrastructure as the MGA allows either. So I don't think we're going to end up the most, I don't think we're going to end up the least, but I think everybody in this room wants to be fair, and I agree definitely with the updating of this, of the program. Councillor Connick?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I would concur with what's been said. I guess I'm wondering, how do we compare to other communities such as Black Falls in terms of what we're having as offsite levies, for example? Like I said, we don't want to scare away development. I don't want to be higher, than other. Can you compare, or can you compare?
You can compare, of course. I mean, there's a straight dollar comparison. Each community is different, what's going to be required. But right now, the city with our current offset levy is quite behind other communities. I can't comment on what our future ones will be, but right now, we're certainly below the average.
Okay, because that concerns me a little when, Black Falls has a record year and we're still struggling, and now we're going to raise offsite levies a little more and further deter development. I hope not, but I agree it has to be better, maybe a better formula, but I don't want to scare away development.
Thank you. Sayo Macquarie, then Councillor Rebel.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I just wanted to bring the council's attention that there's a current MGA review, and of course the offsite levies are identified within the MGA. There has been considerable discussion at the provincial level and around the province amongst municipalities in terms of offsite levies and what is an appropriate offsite levy. Certainly, historically, the only offsite levies that have been charged or that have been legislated are the ones for water, wastewater, storm, and roads. There are municipalities in this province who have voluntary offsite levies. Certainly, with the development of communities comes the need for ancillary facilities like recreation, like police and fire. So I anticipate that there's going to be considerable discussion in terms of what will constitute an offsite levy in the future, and I just prepare council for that.
Thank you. Councillor Epperl, then Councillor Bosma.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I'd like to move that council direct administration to proceed with the development of a draft offsite levy framework, including the infrastructure identified in this memo.
Thank you. Councillor Bosma?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I would like a little bit of clarification further, if I may, Matt, regarding the charging of offsite levies. As an example, I'm just going into the lift stations or the potential lift stations for sanitary sewer. If a developer came along and wanted to develop right in the north, would they have an offsite levy that would pay for that particular lift station, or would they also pay for the one that's way in the west? That may happen at some future date as well. Like, how does that work? How does that calculate it out?
What we do is we create a series of maps based on this infrastructure and the different offset levies that we would want. And so very simplistically, there's certain hatching over given quarter sections or given development areas, and you sort of overlay, okay, I have to pay the pink one for this sanitary lift station because I've been identified as a benefiting area. I don't have to pay the yellow one because that's a lift station for the west area. I do have to pay the green one, which is 2,000 an acre for the roads, and you have them all up. So how we select which areas are hatched which color is an engineering exercise that uses our computerized models that we've been developing over the last year or so.
So further to that, offsite levies account for what percentage of a developer's costs, or the sale of a lot, as an example? Do you have any idea on that, what that is?
Without detailed knowledge of a developer, of course I can't say for sure, but Michael, what would a typical offsite levy here be? Maybe $12,000 an acre or something like that? 16?
Yeah, about 16.
Yeah. Right now we'd be around 16,000 an acre for a land that was going to be benefiting from all of our potential offsites. So does that add to the cost of developed land? Absolutely. Is that the primary cost? Absolutely not.
Thank you. Councillor Foster, you ready with a comment?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I just wanted to, because it was quite confusing, and I'm glad we've had this discussion. Matt laid out a really good report, and I really appreciate it. I read it twice. I still had lots of confusion in my head, but I think I've now understood better why, and the fact that Norma had brought up the fact that this is under consideration. I had remembered that, and I'm going, well, why are we trying to mess with this when the MGA is going to create something? But it could be some time before they do that, so we can't wait. And I guess that. So thank you for everybody for all the discussion, because it has been helpful.
Thank you. Yes, that MGA review will be over the next 3 to 5 years, and we can update this framework as we move forward as well. Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. The council direct administration to proceed with the development of a draft off-site levy framework, including the infrastructure identified in this memo. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? So carried. Thank you very much. Got some work to do there, Matt. And thank you for that report and your answering of the questions. We'll go to cemetery services, cemetery expansion, RFP. In the absence of Director Vaughn, CEO McQuarrie.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. I'll try and fill her shoes. The administration this evening is looking for endorsement and approval to enter into a contract with Lees and Associates Landscape Architects. And of course, we're looking to complete the master design and cemetery plan for the Fairview East Cemetery expansion, and also for the construction of phase 1 of the expansion, which is slated to occur in 2013. As you all know, this is the results or stems from the fact that our cemetery lands are reaching capacity. There was an extensive search for alternative land, and administration was directed by council to proceed with the expansion of the current site. A resolution of May 10th, 2010 is quoted in the memorandum indicating to administration to do so, and to look at option A for immediate expansion, and followed by option C. So those two options, they included the plantings along the north perimeter to provide that barrier between MR and private lots, to survey and lay out new plots, the extension of the roadway, and the installation of concrete ribbons. Additionally, I just want to point out that some legislative requirements have been confirmed, that being the MDP, the Municipal Development Plan, North Area Structure Plan, Land Use Bylaw, have all been amended. There's been a formal disposition of municipal reserve, and of course that's required under the Municipal Government Act. The unused portions of land have been surveyed and prepared for burial plots in the cemetery. The cemetery bylaws, policy, and procedures, there was an extensive review and update, and that came before council in 2012. And then, of course, maintenance and operational plans have been developed. So the final step is the design of a master cemetery plan for the entire expansion area and the construction of phase 1. There was an RFP that went out January 17th. We received 4 submissions. The closing date was February 1st. 5 proponents did attend a mandatory pre-bid site meeting. We felt that the submissions were of great caliber. We were really happy with what we received. We had 4 individuals evaluate and review the proposals. There was criteria developed. The criteria was based on depth and breadth of experience, approach and cost for the project, design, any innovation around design, collaborative project management, familiarity with City of Recreation portfolio, and of course reference checks were done. Following that, it became apparent that Lees and Associates, they have offices in Vancouver and Ontario. They have developed cemeteries across the country, and when reference checks were done, they were very good, and certainly they have a presence in Alberta. They are partnered with a company, an Edmonton company, Picea, and they are landscape architects. And the third company in this partnership is B3 Companies, and that's an engineering firm. They have come in with a price of $82,569.50 to complete the master plan, as well as the work required for construction of phase 1. If you recall, our total project budget was $120,000, so certainly they have come in under that budget. The recommendation before council is that you enter into a contract with this company for a contract amount of $82,569.50. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions, discussion? Councillor Creasy?
I was just curious if you could tell me who did the original Fairview Cemetery plan?
That's a very good question, Councillor Creasy, and I do not know that answer. I will get that answer for you.
I don't either, but I think I can shed some light on it, and there wasn't one done. And it absolutely amazes me how they ever got built without getting in some high-priced landscape architects to come up with it. This is an absolute waste of money. This blows me away. We've got perfectly capable people in-house, in our drafting department, in our engineering department, and our landscaping services, our arborists and whatnot, to come up with a plan for this entire thing, and this is just unbelievable to me.
Councillor Rempel?
I'd like to recommend that council direct administration enter into a contract with Lees and Associates Landscaping Architects and planners to complete a master design plan for Fairview East Cemetery lands in the amount of $82,569.50.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Foster, then Councillor Bosma.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. When I first read the initial part of the report, I'm going, holy man, I had the same impression that, wow, this is an awful lot of money to design. Once I got into the report, and I just referenced page 17 in the report, and it has a graph on there that it kind of struck me as being very apparent when you see this graph, and it talks about assuming the number of deaths and casket burials and cremations in the city of Lacombe, and it comes out very clearly that that we have not been doing some things that perhaps can be looked at differently, and so, yeah, my first initial thought was, well, why can't we do this ourselves? And maybe we can, but when I looked at the type of information that was being developed here, obviously this is a niche market that I hadn't known was even available out there. I just thought that communities just did this type of thing on their own, and came up with the best plans, and it looks nice, and it's got nice straight roads and that sort of thing. But I think what I saw in here was an awful lot more to be developed, and so I guess reading this full report gave me more appreciation for why we would be spending what I originally considered an awful lot of money for what. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Boswell.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I'm very glad to hear that the amount of money that we are anticipating spending on this particular project is substantially less than is budgeted, and I was hoping for that when we approved the budget back in December. How does this particular contract compare to the other submissions that were made, and why would you say that this one is the best one?
To Councillor Bosma, in terms from a cost perspective, the next lowest bid price was $106,000. So this was significant in terms of cost difference. We felt that this was a very solid proposal. We felt that this particular company is doing the necessary research in terms of doing a forecast around needs, as well as having the capability of doing the design plan and managing the construction management portion of the project. So they're very well-rounded in terms of their qualifications and experience that they bring to the project.
Councillor Rempel.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. When I went through this, it was very nice to see. I think it was page 29. We had project schedule, and it's very precise and shows exactly what you're going to be doing. And the other thing that I thought was quite important was public engagement, because I know there are quite a few residents that want to be involved and know what is going on with the cemetery expansion. Most of them, of course, because they live right around that area, and it's good to know that that they will be involved in this process and be able to have their input into that, and we'll know exactly what's going on, and we'll be able to follow along as far as how this process is going to work. So I think it's being done the right way, and I think our community will be happy with the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The motion is on the floor. Is there any further discussion with regards to the cemetery expansion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, I think that concludes the business end of things. We will get into reports. I'll mess you all up and go first. My report's there before you. Fairly busy. There was one landed on the same day as the AMD&C zone meeting in Caroline. I also attended the federal budget input meeting, I guess you could call it, with MP Blaine Calkins and Minister of State Finance Ted Menzies, held on Friday, February 8th in Black Falls. There was actually good attendance there from City of Wetaskiwin, Pinoka, Samson Cree Nation was there. Town of Black Falls, of course, Leslieville, County Leduc, and then there were some local business people as well. So it was a good cross-section of input. I think it was a very good discussion, and we actually opened the eyes of the federal minister a little bit on a couple of things that he definitely wasn't aware of. And one of those items was the quoting process. If it's over a certain amount of money that we have to go across Canada with getting quotes and RFPs for our projects, and he wasn't aware that we had to do that. And so that was something that opened his eyes, and I brought to his attention as well with regards to, I think our number one priority is infrastructure for sure. Infrastructure is definitely the backbone of growth. It's the backbone of economic growth, and if we don't have the proper infrastructure, we can't be growing. And with regards to that, we don't seem to be recognized federally for collaboration with other communities, with other jurisdictions, and the province. You know, when I look at our regional water line, it involves the town of Pinoka, the county of Pinoka, the county of Lacombe, the city of Lacombe, Black Falls, Red Deer, and the province was involved with that. And I think that it should be federally helped federally when you've got that many people collaborating on a project and making our area a better place to live. So they, I know the MP seemed to like that one as well. So I spoke to the need of our regional wastewater line coming up as well, and just the collaboration with regards to that. And we are recognized provincially for regional collaboration, so we should be federally. So that was one thing I brought up. And everything else is there. With regards to my goings on, the grand opening of the Royal Oak Christensen Developments, that's quite a building. If you get a chance to go up and go through that, they would be happy to walk you through and just show you some of the rooms and some of the services that are provided there. And it's a great addition to our community. And there was a lady here earlier that was talking about looking for a different type of housing, and she's not quite ready for this, but there are a lot of people that are, so it is a great asset to our community. Any questions with regards to my report? Councilor Connick?
Well, the comment was, it was nice to see that Ray was there, given that he was a big spirit to that as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, Councilor Bosma.
Thanks, Mayor Christie. My report is in front of you. Actually, it was one of my slower periods, which was kind of nice. And there's a whole number of things coming up in the next few weeks, but it's there if you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilor Bosma? Seeing none, go to Councilor Rempel.
Thank you, Mayor Christie. As you know, I was on holidays and just returned a couple of days ago, so didn't really have much to report on, but I do just want to make note of email I got from Gary Leslie in regards to the LPS hosting Alberta Association of Chief of Police roundtable meeting. Sounds like once again staff at the LMC and everybody did a fantastic job from what he's saying here, and hats off to them and for LPS bringing the association out again too. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilor Rempel? Councilor Foster?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. Councilor Rempel, would you please put all the rumors to rest that you are not leaving our community? I was very happy to hear that earlier.
I can definitely do that. We did go look at some property and a business venture out in Belize, and it just wasn't the right timing and the right opportunity for us. So we will be remaining in the community, and as much as you know, it's always nice to look at other things. We are still very happy here and plan to stick around for a while, so unless something else comes up down the road someday, who knows? We'll see. Thank
Great,
you.
well, I look forward to you throwing your hat in the ring later.
Thank you. Any further questions for Councillor Rempel? Councillor Creasy?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I think it was a culmination, not an awful lot to report in there. The Lacombe Regional Solid Waste Commission planning meeting, I understand, went fairly well. I expect that some of the ideas brought forward will be tempered in reality when it comes down to cost, but it was good to see that there was some positive input there from what I've heard so far. One thing I did want to mention was that we have a meeting conflict with Regional Solid Waste and Fire Services on the 13th, which is Wednesday, and perhaps I put in here to request an alternate council member attend in my absence. Perhaps someone that was present for the discussion involving firefighters, additional medical response calls would be appropriate. I mean, that wasn't necessarily on the agenda. I don't expect it to be a big confrontational thing, but I'm sure it'll come up. I wasn't here for those discussions, so if someone would like to attend that in my absence, I would certainly appreciate it. I'm sure that Councilor will be there as well. And that's other upcoming meetings there at the end, and that's all that I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Councillor Creasy? All right, Councillor Connick?
Thank you, Mayor Christie. The report is there, fairly short. Attended an interesting session on early childhood development mapping that sought to map out children and their preparation for kindergarten. And it's an ongoing project the provincial government has launched. They're paying for it through Alberta Ed. And as it says here, it looks to measure 5 areas of development prior to kindergarten. I'm a little astounded to see that in Lacombe, 1 in 4 children aren't ready. I don't know what the solutions are, but it gives positive thought as to what we can do more as a community and families and so forth, so that children are ready. Because those, and I guess the real number is 2,000 days. When you say first 5 years, it's lots of time. When you say 2,000 days, you know, you miss a day, you miss 100 in that child's development, and it's could implicate them for the rest of their life. Really, it's very crucial time in a child's development. So at any rate, it was just some interesting numbers thrown out there, food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Connick? Councillor Creasy?
Thanks, Mayor. I was just curious, did they supply any explanation as to why we're 5% below the provincial average in early childhood development?
No, and that's one of the, they didn't, and that's one of the things we were trying to figure out, why is that the case here? And you could chalk it up to economic, perhaps, was one idea, maybe because a lot of families in this area, you know, maybe are operating as single families because dad is away for so long, so that affects the, you know, the development of the child. There's lots of theories out there. But that was one that was thrown out there. But it's the project was to try and figure out what the numbers are and then how to address it. And that's one of the things that will come from that is why. Why is it so high here in Lacombe as opposed to provincial average?
Thanks.
Incidentally, 20% is still pretty high. Provincial too, but anyway.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Connick? Councillor Foster?
Thanks, Mayor Christie. I had a very busy, very productive couple of weeks. I'm not going to go into all the reports, but I think one thing I heard loud and clear in some of the bigger sessions that I went to is that when you bring lots of the municipalities together and the different people, whether it be councillors or CAOs or the staff, is the lack of appreciation that the community at large has for us participating in these kinds of things and how important it is for us to participate. And so I think we certainly don't need to defend the fact when we go to these sessions, because I think a lot of people just say, oh, it's a time to get away and get a free meal or whatever. There's a lot of work, a lot of development, and everyone around this table knows what I'm speaking about. But I just wanted to make the point that when you get together with some of these groups, that it is a lot of good discussion that goes around the table. Grant, this Lacombe Solid Waste Authority strategic planning session was an excellent one where we were able to have a couple of pretty good areas of discussion, lots of feedback coming back to us in form that will be probably to us this week. The Emerging Trends seminar that I went to, there's 600, between Edmonton and Calgary, 600 CAOs, counselors, staff, planners that are going to this session, and just some excellent feedback that you get from, and meeting the people from all these different, I mean, I was very happy to sit with a lot of different people at the event. So I just encourage, you know, here I am speaking as a retiree, I can go to a lot more of these things. It is easier for me, but I really strongly recommend as much as we can to send our people to these kinds of things. You know, really that's my message. I mean, it was a great week. 4-H, holy man, you talk about young people, talk about the early education. You get those 4-Hers, it didn't matter if they were 5 or 6 years old up to 15, 16 years old, when they got to stand in front of their peers and give speeches. It's no wonder that they blow the socks off of kids in our community, because they have that practice ahead of time, and it's life skills that are so important. So just a great couple of weeks, and I think my wife is probably pretty happy that I was gone for most of that time. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Councillor Foster? Seeing none, can I get a motion to accept reports as information? Thank you, Councillor Belsma. All those in favor? So carried. We'll take 10 minutes and come back to in-camera session. Thank you.